Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, my review of the Kobo Libra Colour. So I'm going to talk about a few different things in this video. I'll talk about the device itself, so what's it like to use, what's that screen like, what's the colour like, what's it been like for taking notes. So I've got the stylus for it, which I've been using, and I've also got the sleep cover for it, so I'll do a quick bit on the sleep cover as well. And I'm also going to talk about the experience of moving from being a Kindle user to being a Kobo user. So I've been deep in the Kindle ecosystem for years. I have thousands of Kindle books, so I'll talk about how I've managed to transfer those over to the Kobo. And then I'll also go through some questions that people left in the comments on that unboxing video. So if I was to sum up the device in two phrases, I would say that it is elegantly designed and unashamedly plastic. The plastic side of it is really, really interesting. In some ways, it doesn't feel like a premium device. It certainly doesn't feel as premium as something like my Kindle Scribe. But in others, that feels like a really deliberate choice that Kobo have made. This is a deliberately plastic device. It's plastic, it uses recycled plastic, and it is user repairable as well. So it is a lot more eco-friendly than a lot of e-readers out there. The user repairable part of it, you use a site called iFixit. So Kobo have partnered with iFixit. iFixit is a site that provides manuals and things like that for people on how to repair devices, and also kits that you can buy from them that help you repair the device. So on the Kobo, you can do things like replace the battery. So this is something quite new, I think, for e-readers. It's certainly something I haven't seen before, and it's something I applaud. And the plastic that the device is made of is recycled plastic. So it definitely feels plastic. You can hear that kind of plasticky rattle if I tap it, but it feels well made. It's well constructed, and the plastic has a really nice kind of premium feel to it. It feels like good plastic, if that makes sense. It also has on the back this kind of textured feel, which is really nice. It's a really nice device to hold. And as you can see, it's very slightly tapered, so the side that has the buttons on is slightly thicker than the other side, and that makes it nice for one-handed reading. It's not quite as well balanced as the Kindle Oasis was. So the Kindle Oasis was a lot thicker on one side and then became very, very thin. But it did that at the expense of battery life. So the battery life on the Kindle Oasis was terrible. The battery life on the Kobo is decent. It's not as good as the battery life on something like my Kindle Paperwhite. And I think that's partly because of the colour screen, and I'll talk about why that is in a bit. But it is a decent, the battery life is decent. I'm easily getting a week plus out of this. So in terms of other things about the device itself then, so the screen obviously is a colour screen, and the way they do that is there's like a black and white layer that handles the black and white text, and then there's a colour overlay. So on this device, the black and white part of the screen is the latest version of the Carter e-ink screen. So I believe it's the 1300, and it feels really snappy. It's much quicker than devices with older versions of that black and white screen. So they're like refreshing of the pages and things like that. When you turn a page, it's really, really quick. And then on top of that, it's got this Kaleido 3 colour layer. So that's the same colour layer that's used on my Big Me Inknote Plus that I've talked about on the channel before. If I show you this comic I got recently for it, The Last Ronin, you can see the colours look really, really nice. The screen is really crisp and clear. It really looks excellent. But that colour screen does come at the expense of having to have the brightness turned up. So I'm used on my Kindles to having the brightness turned all the way down, which means the battery lasts for longer. On the Kobo, certainly if I'm reading stuff in colour, I have the brightness turned up a bit. And even when you are not reading in colour, even when you're reading in black and white, I tend to have the brightness up a bit. And that is because of that colour layer that the screen's got over the top of it, the screen has a slightly grey tinge to it. So if you compare it to something like the Paperwhite, you can see the paper, if you like, on the Paperwhite is much whiter. If you have the brightness turned up a little bit, it gets rid of that greyness to an extent. I have to say it hasn't bothered me at all. That greyness when I'm reading a book, it doesn't bother me, but it is there if you do like a side-by-side comparison. But overall, I'm really impressed with the screen. The colours seem to render really, really well. The one downside of it compared to something like my Big Me for reading comics on is it's not a huge screen. It's bigger than a lot of screens out there. It's slightly bigger than the Paperwhite screen, I think. But for reading comics, it's still a bit small. So for reading comics, I tend to use my Big Me instead with that much bigger screen. And it's been interesting for me coming to the Kobo after years of using the Kindle. So I've got used to Kindles getting gradually better with each new release. This Kobo is clearly quite an evolved design. So Kobo have been working on this design for a while, and they've gradually tweaked and improved it over time. So this feels like a really fully formed device, and it's a delight to use as a result. The page turn buttons work brilliantly. I didn't realise how much I missed having page turn buttons. So I was used to having them on my Kindle Oasis, but stopped using that because of the terrible battery life. It's just really nice to be able to read and just click the button to turn the pages. It's just easier. It's difficult to describe. It feels in some ways almost lazy not having to move my other arm to touch the screen, but I really do appreciate it. And certainly when I was reading something like, so I've read the new Stephen King book, You Like It Darker on this. I read that all the way through on this device, and it was just an absolute pleasure to use. The screen's really nice, the page turn buttons work well, and it's just really responsive and snappy. And there are a couple of UI choices Kobo have made on this, which I thought were absolutely wonderful and really refreshing to me coming from using Kindles. So the first one is to change the brightness on the screen. When you're reading a book, all you have to do is just swipe slightly on the left-hand side of the screen, and you can adjust the brightness up or down that way. And it just works seamlessly. It's perfect. And then the other one is the progress bar that you can have at the bottom of the screen. So rather than having like percentage of the book that you've read, or the number of minutes it's going to take you to finish the book, you can literally just have this progress bar at the bottom of the screen which gradually fills up as you read the book, and that feels much more organic and much more like reading a real book. So when you're reading a paper book, you know how far you've got through the book, because you can, if you hold the book up in front of you, you can see how many pages you've got. You can visually see your progress through the book. The progress bar does exactly the same thing but on a digital display, and I thought that was a really interesting and just nice simple way of displaying your progress through the book. And I'm really enjoying the Kobo ecosystem as well. It's much less in your face than the Kindle one. So I've always felt with Kindle devices like they spend as much time trying to sell you new books as they do letting you read the books you've already got. With the Kobo, you can buy books on it. There's a Discover tab which you can go into, which has the Kobo store there. Nicely, it also integrates Overdrive. So if you've got an Overdrive account, so Overdrive is a service that libraries use that allow you to borrow books directly on your devices. In the UK, at least, you can't use Overdrive on Kindles. I think you can in the US, but in the UK you can't. But you can use it on Kobos. And they've integrated Overdrive into the store experience. So if you search for a book, it will tell you if it's available on Overdrive, as well as telling you whether you can buy it from the Kobo store or not, which just feels like a user-focused way of doing things rather than a Kobo-focused way of doing things. So I really, really like that. One thing to note though is that the Kobo store definitely has less books than the Kindle store. I'm not aware of the overall totals, but Kindle Unlimited really boosts the amount of books that Amazon have available for Kindle. And the reason for that is if you sign up for Kindle Unlimited as like an indie author, your books can't be available on other stores. That's part of the terms and conditions. So what that means is, Amazon are able to leverage their size and the fact that everybody wants to publish for Kindle to restrict people's ability to publish on other platforms. So that is disappointing, but you can still get a lot of independently published books on Kobo, and you can get them in other ways as well. You can get them from sites like Smashwords, and then load them onto your Kobo. And as I said at the start, I'm someone who's now managed to move from Kindle to Kobo. So I've used an application called Calibre on my laptop to remove the DRM, the digital rights management software that's baked into Kindle books, and that means I can now load them onto my Kobo and read them. And I've done that, so I've now got thousands of books that I bought from the Kindle store on my Kobo, and I can read them perfectly happily there. The other thing they've done, which is fantastic, is integrated the device with a load of other services. So you can register your Google Drive account on here, you can register your Dropbox account on here. And if you put books into a certain folder on those services, so you create a Kobo folder and put books into it on your Google Drive or your Dropbox, you can access them from the device. So it's a really easy way to get books onto the device. It's not as easy to get books on as it is with a Kindle though. So with a Kindle, they have the Kindle, the Send to Kindle page where you can upload books directly from a laptop, or you can send books to a Kindle email address and they'll turn up on your device. I think Amazon do that really, really well. They've got very good at letting you sideload content onto your device without having to plug it in. So that is definitely one thing where I think Amazon have the slight edge over Kobo. And partly that's because Amazon, as well as being a shop, is a huge cloud services company. So they've invested a huge amount of money in making it easy to move stuff through the cloud, if you like. Kobo, don't have that advantage. But the fact that they're partnering with Google and Dropbox, I think is a really good way to get around that. So not quite as easy as to get books onto as it is onto a Kindle, but still easy enough. But the one service I haven't been able to get to work is Pocket. So Pocket is a service that allows you to save items that you come across online, like news stories and things like that, so you can read them later. And in theory, you can synchronize them with your Kobo. So I've managed to log in on my Kobo with my Pocket account, but I can't get any items to sync to it. So if you've managed to make that work, do let me know in the comments how you've done it, because that's a service I'm definitely interested in using on this device. One of the things I've really liked using my BigMe for is reading like news content. So I was interested to try that on the Kobo, and it's a shame that it hasn't worked. So I'm definitely still using my BigMe for things like that, for reading like news off the BBC News and the Guardian websites and that kind of thing. The other thing you can use the Kobo for, if you buy the separate stylus, is taking notes. So you can either have notebooks where you can, kind of scribble notes as you go through the day, or you can add notes to the books you're reading. And Kobo are definitely ahead of Amazon in this area. So with the Kindle Scribe, where you can also take notes in books, you have to kind of long press and then a post-it note pops up, and you can scribble information in there. With the Kobo, you can actually write directly on the text, which is fantastic. A really nice implementation of that. And because it's got a colour screen, you can also highlight and things like that in colour, which is a nice addition. It's not a kind of game changer, I wouldn't have said, but it is a nice addition. I'm not a huge note taker, to be honest with you, but I've tried the various note taking features on the Kobo, and they all seem to work well. And if you happen to have a Microsoft Surface pen lying around, which I did, then that works on the Kobo as well. So you don't need to shell out for the Kobo stylus if you have a Microsoft Surface pen. You can annotate, you can highlight and things like that with that just as well as you can with the Kobo stylus. So let's talk about the case as well. So this is the Kobo sleep cover. I think without a doubt this is the nicest case I've ever had on an e-reader. It's just beautifully done. It's got this lovely kind of soft interior to it, but the exterior feels really nice as well. It's not leather, but it feels like leather. And what it doesn't have, what I've had on every Kindle case I've ever had, is that kind of weird plasticky edging around the sides that it inevitably ends up coming off. With the Kobo case, you don't get that. This feels like a case that will last forever. I'm really, really pleased with it. Okay, and I've just got a handful of questions here that were in the comments on my unboxing video, which I don't think I've answered elsewhere in the video. So let me go through those quickly. So first one is, can you transfer scribbles and notes from the e-reader to another e-reader? I don't think you can. Kobo have partnered with a website which you can send the notes to, so you can view them online or in an app on your phone, but I don't think you can actually send them to another device. Next question is, can you put the screen into black and white only mode? I don't think you can, but if you're reading black and white content, it will just show as black and white. It doesn't add colour to black and white content. So if you're reading a regular book, it will just show in black and white anyway. Next question is, how does it charge? So just via the USB-C port. It doesn't have wireless charging or anything like that. The pen also charges via USB-C, so the pen has a battery inside it. So you can charge both of them with the same charger, which is handy. The device doesn't charge really, really quickly, but then you don't need to have it on a full charge to take it out for a day. So if it's a bit low and you're going out for the day, you probably just charge it for half an hour or something like that, and that will give you enough charge to get through the day. I think those are all of the questions from the comments on that other video that I haven't covered elsewhere. So let me just close with my final thoughts then. And let's talk about colour first of all. So the colour screen on this is lovely. It looks really, really nice, and I'm really enjoying having like colour covers on my books. But I do think it's a bit of a gimmick. And the reason for that is the screen is too small, I think, to read comics and magazines and things like that, which are things where you would want colour. For reading, regular books, it's nice to have that colour cover, but then you just switch into black and white mode anyway. So it's a gimmick. It's a really nice gimmick, but it is, I think, a gimmick. And it does come at a bit of a cost because of that slight grey tinge to the screen, you're likely to have your brightness turned up a little bit, which means that the battery won't last quite as long. So for me personally, for reading comics and things like that, I'm finding I'm still using my Big Me Inknote Colour Plus rather than using the Kobo. Aside from that though, I think it's a really well executed e-reader. The UI is simple and easy to use. The store isn't nearly as in your face as it is on the Kindle, and those page turn buttons work brilliantly. And this is, I think, the only device you can buy at the moment that has page turn buttons, because Amazon have discontinued the Kindle Oasis. So if you like page turn buttons, the Kobo Libra is the place to go. And there is a black and white version of the Libra as well. So yeah, it's just a lovely device to read on. I've really enjoyed using it, and I haven't missed my Kindles at all since I got it. So I hope you found that interesting. If you've got a Kobo Libra Colour, do let me know what you think of it in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.